Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight we're diving into the Las Vegas Raiders because there's something that really sets them apart from most other NFL teams. Usually, preseason is just that, preseason. Coaches and coordinators aren't really planning for the full game. They're mostly focused on getting their players ready and giving their quarterbacks the best chance to shine. But for the Raiders this offseason, it's a bit different. They're trying to figure out who their starting quarterback is going to be. Sure, it's still preseason, and you'll often hear people say, it's just preseason, so it doesn't really matter. But for the Raiders, preseason matters a bit more this time. They're using it to help decide who will lead the team as their starting quarterback. That means they're trying to make these preseason games feel as close to the real thing as possible. We recently heard from Antonio Pierce, and he mentioned that we'll probably know who the starting quarterback is by next week, around August 12th. So today we're going to talk about the quarterback battle and break down the Raiders' first preseason game. But before we jump in, if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's try to get this video to 250 likes. Your support would mean a lot. Now, about the game. The final score doesn't really matter, especially in a quarterback battle. Antonio Pierce had mentioned that Aidan O'Connell was the front runner for the starting position, and it was his job to lose. Aidan got the start a couple of days ago against the Minnesota Vikings, and honestly, I think he did pretty well. Some fans didn't like Aidan's performance, just like some weren't impressed with Gardner's. But to me, both quarterbacks performed pretty similarly. Aidan completed 7 of 9 passes for 76 yards, playing just one drive that ended in a field goal. Yes, he took a sack you can't afford to take, but it's only the first week of preseason. Things won't be perfect yet. If Aidan had played the whole game, the final score might have been different, but it's just one possession in a preseason game. So, if you're already drawing conclusions, remember it's still early. And hey, I get it. When there's a quarterback battle, you're going to have people rooting for both sides. Let me tell you this. The most important thing on your opening possession is to put points on the board. Of course, in any football game, whether it's the NFL, college, or even a middle school game, you always want a touchdown over a field goal. That's a no-brainer. But if you end up with a field goal, most teams will still be okay with that. After all, it's better to put something on the board and keep the momentum going. Aidan O'Connell got a lot of criticism just because he took a sack on third down in the red zone, which isn't ideal. But let's cut him some slack. Gardner Minshew didn't play much better either. Sure, Gardner had 6 completions on 12 attempts for 117 yards, and he did have a touchdown throw, but a lot of that came from his ability to move outside the pocket. But folks, let's be real. Quarterbacks like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady weren't known for their running ability, and they turned out just fine. We're in a different era of football, sure, but to say Aidan can't be a starting quarterback just because he's not a runner? That's a bit harsh. What I got from week 1 of the preseason is that the Raiders are likely going to be on the lookout for a franchise quarterback in the offseason. It might not be through the draft, but if it is, Aidan O'Connell and Gardner Minshew are still there for at least another year. Speaking of Gardner, he had more explosive plays, but the disrespect Aidan O'Connell received after last night's Raiders game was surprising. One player who did stand out, though, was Trey Tucker. He was targeted 4 times, caught 2 passes for 73 yards, including a 44-yard pass from Gardner. I've been saying this, and I'll say it again. I'm less concerned about who the starting quarterback is because, in my opinion, Gardner Minshew can be a starter. If Aidan loses the starting job, it's not great for him long-term, but it's not the end of the world either. You have weapons like Davante Adams, who didn't play in the game, Jacoby Myers, who did, and rookies like Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. And then there's Trey Tucker. This guy is unbelievably fast. We saw flashes of his potential last season, especially in games against the Broncos and Chargers. So heading into the rest of the preseason, I don't think Aidan O'Connell has lost his job at all. He went 7 for 9 with 76 yards and took a sack on third down. Not great, but not a disaster either. But hey, things like this happen, and I really don't think Aidan O'Connell lost his job at all. To be honest, the main point of this video wasn't even to focus on the quarterback position. But here we are, 7.5 minutes later, talking all about it. Now, let's switch gears and look at some of the bright spots. Amari Burney seems to have locked in his roster spot with his performance. On the flip side, there were a few negatives. MJ Devonshire, this year's rookie from Pitt, didn't have the best outing. He gave up 2 catches, one of which resulted in a touchdown. And DJ Glaze, it's looking like we might have been a bit too optimistic about him, But again, it's just preseason, so we need to take all of this with a grain of salt. That said, when you're in the middle of a quarterback battle, maybe we should take that grain of salt away just for the QB position because in the end, they still need to figure out who's going to start in week one. Overall, I liked almost everything I saw from the Raiders in their first preseason game. But I want to hear from you. If you were the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders and had to name the starting quarterback right now, who would you pick? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Have a great night, and I'll see you soon. Peace.